are some problems that are so daunting we almost accept them as a fact of life, something that can't be fixed. One good example, the lack of affordable housing in South Florida. We see big pricey condos being built, luxury homes, but little about affordable housing, even though the need is great. Our next guest says that over a third of Florida households pay more than 30% of their income on housing, while a fifth of Floridians, more than 780,000 households, pay more than 50% of their income on rent. And when half of what you make goes to rent, you are barely able to stay afloat. So rather than accept this, what can be done? Matthew Rieger is the president and CEO of Housing Trust Group, which develops affordable housing here in Florida. Matthew, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
So I gave a little bit of a description of the problem. We talked a little bit before with State Senator Gary Farmer about the issue. He says it's a big issue. Enlighten us a little bit more. How big a crisis is this?
Well, I think you said it when you said the word crisis. Everyone knows what a crisis is. And I think part of the problem is there's a lack of understanding about what affordable housing is. This is not public housing. This is not housing that's done by public housing authorities. This is a public-private partnership where the private sector, me, works with the public, the government, to bring affordable housing where it's needed. And how bad is it needed? We often bring a 100-unit apartment complex online, and then the very same day it is 100% leased, and I have a triple-digit waiting list for those affordable apartments.
So essentially, if you build 100, there are 400 people waiting for those 100 apartments.
Simply put, you're correct.
So this is the problem. So what needs to be done about it?
Well, there's a couple solutions, and I think there's some low-hanging fruit here. We have a program called the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. It was created in 1986 under the Reagan administration. Since 1986, this program has created over 3 million affordable apartments all across the United States of America. This is a successful program. It is politically agnostic. The Democrats like it. Why? It is a social program. The Republicans like it. Why? It provides a tax credit to big business. So there's no one on either side of the aisle, as long as these guys get back working, right? There's no one on either side of the aisle that has a problem with this. We just need to have more resources devoted to this federal program that has proven to work.
Now, an irony is that the tax cut that the Republican Congress passed this last time around, a tax cut that was written by former Congressman Carlos Curbelo in part, actually ended up having a negative effect on affordable housing. Explain why.
Sure. There was something really important happen. It wasn't just the tax cut. It was the Trump election which gave rise to the talk of a tax cut. So really, it was about a year and a half before we ever had a tax cut that we saw a true disturbance in the market.
All right. One thing I want to turn to is the state, because I think the state, we have more control what can happen. In the last segment, we were talking to State Senator Gary Farmer about the Sadowski Trust, which has been around for 25 years. Basically, when you buy a house, when I bought a house and I signed some doc stamps, some of that tax money goes into a fund for affordable housing. But this fund has been raided by the legislature every year since about 2003. What can be done about that?
You hit the nail on the head. It's been raided every year since 2003. It's been raided to the tune of $2.6 billion, have all been diverted from their purpose for building more affordable housing to other things.
Let me give an example. I just wanted to throw out some numbers. So, for instance, in 2017, the doc stamps generated about $292 million for Affordable Housing Trust Fund. But more than $130 million of it was taken out of that fund to cover for short expenses in the general fund in other areas of the state. In 2008, which was during the recession, $220 million was collected into that fund, but the state took $250 million out to cover shortfalls in other areas.
Absolutely incredible. Over 55,000 affordable apartments could have been built with this money that was raided. We are in a crisis. We had a trust fund. Think about the word, trust fund. We were trusting that our legislature would use this money for its intended purpose. And now we find ourselves mired in a crisis. This did not arrive on our doorstep this morning. We saw this coming a long time ago.
Is the problem in some ways that folks who need this, average people, not necessarily poor people. We're not talking about poor people. We're talking about average, folks who are trying to make working folks. They really don't have a voice in Tallahassee to represent them as much as other interest groups do. Is that part of the problem?
That's absolutely the problem. But really, at the end of the day, it comes down to a supply and a demand problem. Jobs and incomes have not grown. These are not people who are just overspending on rent voluntarily. There's just a lack of affordable apartments for them to rent. In Miami, the most unaffordable market in the entire United States of America, you gave a stat at the top, but in Miami, to bring it home, 1/3 of the renters in Miami spend more than 50% of their take-home pay.
More than 50
on rent, and 2/3 of those same renters in Miami spend more than the recommended 30%. So I was growing up, and my dad was in real estate, and he always taught me, Matt, 25 to 30% of your take-home pay maximum on rent. 2 out of every 3 Miamians spends more than the recommended 30.
We only have about a minute or so left. Is the problem that there isn't enough money available to build the housing, or is it that there aren't enough developers interested in building housing?
Without question, it's the former. People like to build housing. Really what they like to build is market rate housing so they can make a lot of money. There's still a lot of people who want to build affordable housing, but the problem is there's a lack of resources at the federal, state, and local level to build it. For example,
incentives, the very incentives we're talking about in terms of financing.
Incentives, financing, yes, the same thing. When sometimes we put in an application with Florida Housing for an affordable apartment complex in Miami-Dade County, there might be 100 competing applications for one tax credit allocation. The demand to build it is there, but the resources to get it financed are not there.
So the state needs to step up and do better.
The federal government, the state, and the local government. Everyone needs to come together.
All right, this is clearly an issue that we're not going to solve here, but it's one of those things where, and I feel bad now because I wish I had during the governor's race pressed issues like this more, but we'll continue to do it. When we have legislators in here, we'll talk to them about that. I'm going to schedule to sit down with the governor in a few weeks. We'll press him on it, and we'll sort of see where they are, because I think if nobody's complaining, they get to continue to raid the trust fund.
You're right. Thank you, Jim.
Matthew, thank you very much for your time. We'll be right back right after the break.